Good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world, and welcome to tonight's live stream. We have an extraordinary young lady joining us tonight, Sadie-Lee Hansen, and she has taken on a mission with a purpose, and I admire her so much. Okay, what are we talking about? Well, it's absolutely horrific what's happening in South Africa. It is estimated that over 40% of South African women will be raped in their lifetime, and that only 1 in 9 rapes are reported. It is also estimated that only 14% of perpetrators of rape are convicted in South Africa. This means that only about 1 in 100 rapes result in a conviction in South Africa. An extraordinary number when you consider the severity of the crime. A leading research group in South Africa released the results of a survey where 1 in 4 men in South Africa admitted to having committed rape, and nearly half admitted to raping more than one person. The study also drew a correlation between violence and HIV prevalence. When you consider the culture of impunity surrounding violence against women in South Africa, the survey surrounding violence against women in South Africa, the survey is not surprising in the least. According to the researchers, many of the study participants appear to see no problem with what they had done. Now, Sadie-Lee Hansen raised the sexual abuse issue in a stirring video that I will play for you now to give you some background to this remarkable young lady. Let me just get that up for you guys. Here we go.
Hello, South Africa. It really saddens me to be making this video today. I thought long and hard about it before I did, but I keep returning to the same conclusion. If I do not speak out, I am just as bad as the rest that stand by and let this happen. So today I'm speaking. I was made aware today that someone I knew publicly sexually harassed a young waitress in her place of work. I want to commend this young girl for taking that security footage and making it go viral. No woman in this world deserves to be touched or spoken to in any kind of way that is degrading and dehumanizing like you were. I really, really commend you on what you did. Because as someone who was a waitress for 10 years of my life and was subject to countless propositions and sexual comments and harassment by male patrons, I can honestly say that I'm ashamed I never spoke up sooner. I fear for the future of this country. I can't stand the fact that I can't walk anywhere in the streets without clutching my handbag or my taser or my pepper spray because I don't feel safe. Small actions like a man groping a woman in public when she doesn't want to be, they're turned a blind eye to because we think, oh, it's a small thing and the woman will get over it. Those women go to bed at night feeling disgusted, dehumanized, and demoralized. They feel used, they feel objectified, they feel gross, worthless, because you have made them to feel that way. Men in this country are getting away with far too much. And it only starts, that's the tip of the iceberg, this is where it starts. It starts with behavior like this that becomes a norm, that people begin to accept because it's okay. Women will get over it. It really saddens me to be making this video today. I thought long and hard about it before I did, but I keep returning to the same conclusion. If I do not speak out, I am just as bad as the rest that stand by and let this happen. So today I'm speaking. I was made aware today that someone I knew publicly sexually harassed a young waitress in her place of work. I want to commend this young girl for taking that security footage and making it go viral. No woman in this world deserves to be touched or spoken to in any kind of way that is degrading and dehumanizing like you were. I really, really commend you on what you did. Because as someone who was a waitress for 10 years of my life and was subject to countless propositions and sexual comments and harassment by male patrons, I can honestly say that I'm ashamed I never spoke up sooner. I fear for the future of this country. I can't stand the fact that I can't walk anywhere in the streets without clutching my handbag or my taser or my pepper spray because I don't feel safe. Small actions like a man groping a woman in public when she doesn't want to be, they're turned a blind eye to because we think, oh, it's a small thing and the woman will get over it. Those women go to bed at night feeling disgusted, dehumanized, and demoralized. They feel used, they feel objectified, they feel gross, worthless, because you have made them to feel that way. Men in this country are getting away with far too much. And it only starts, that's the tip of the iceberg, this is where it starts. It starts with behavior like this that becomes a norm, that people begin to accept because it's okay. Women will get over it. No. It then trickles down to things like the young boy Sabu who was recently murdered by a coach, someone who was a mentor to this child, someone who he trusted. Tasneh being stuffed in a drain pipe, this poor little defenseless girl. How do we, as a country, say we are proud when we let these things happen? I was once an ambassador of my country. I used to wear a Springbok blazer. I now look at that blazer with absolute disgust. There is nothing proud about it. I'm not proud of the country I represent. In fact, this country is so beautiful. We are spoiled. But this country is being spoiled by these murderers, these pedophiles, these rapists, that you, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, I will not call you president, Mr. Ramaphosa, because of you and your empty promises. You allow these people to walk among us. Sabu's coach had a record. This could have been prevented, but you let him out on parole. And we must feel safe. We must feel protected. By who? Your corrupt police system? Your absolute lack of empathy? Your racist, biased government that couldn't care less about its people and care more about your bank account. The only person this government is benefiting is you, Mr. Ramaphosa. Your people are suffering. They're dying. The children are being raped and murdered. Broad daylight, no problem, freely in the streets. And you sit by and you make a speech and everyone cheers for you because you promise that things are going to get better. Where are the results? Where? The crime rates have gone up every year. Nothing is being done. Women are living in fear. I am so tired of living in fear. I don't want to raise my children in a country like this, where their innocence is taken from them before they are even ready to understand the meaning of the word. South Africa, I beg you. I plead to you. Please rise up. Make your voices heard. Don't be silent. I have been silent for far too long in this country, and I won't anymore. I will not continue to pretend that everything's okay and it's going to get better, because you know what, until we do something, it's not, because our government sure as hell isn't going to do anything for us. My heart is bleeding for the women and children of this country that have been subject to these monsters. And where's the justice? We have a memorial and you say a couple of fancy words, Mr. Ramaphosa, and we're supposed to get over it? My heart is bleeding for this country. And I don't want to stand by and watch this happen anymore. I'm not going to raise my children in a country like this. Mr. Ramaphosa, you make changes now. You keep your word. And you keep these criminals, these monsters, these heathens behind bars, where they belong. You continue to let them roam free in our country, and we will never be safe. How many more children need to be killed, be murdered, be tortured? How many more women? Our entire government is made up of nothing more than racists and domestic abusers. And Malema, I'm looking at you. Made up of people who want blood, not peace. South Africa, please, stand together. We are a beautiful country, we are a beautiful people, and we deserve better. We have come too far to accept this as the norm. This is not a normal occurrence. 4,600 rapes in one province is not normal. If we accept this as the norm, this will continue, and it will continue to get worse. South Africa, I beg you, speak up. Make your voices heard. Boycott this government. Beg, plead, in fact, demand justice. Not for yourself, not for your ancestors, for your future children, for the future of your country. I don't want to live in a world like this. I don't think anyone deserves to live in a world like this. We seem to be broken at this point. The women and children, the people of this country that don't want this to happen, we feel helpless. But I want you to know you're not helpless. You have a voice, you have a say. And if we band together, we can change things. Do not listen to the lies of Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, of Zuma, of Malema, of these people that are puppets in a much higher stake. Please, South Africa, for your future, for the future of our children, for the future of this country, stop allowing this to happen. Stop standing by. Stop watching it. Say something like this brave young girl, this brave young waitress did. Hello, South Africa.
Okay.
It really saddens me.
There you have a quite extraordinary appeal by Sadie. I mean, what an amazing young lady. And we're going to now meet her in person. I'm going to get her on Facebook. And we're going to have a real people chat. Here we go. An error occurred while trying to get access to the microphone. Hardware access to turn your microphone on. Wow, it's the first time I've used Facebook, guys, and let me just see if I can just start the voice call. Okay, it seems to be working now. Hi, Sadie.
Hi, Scott.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, thank you. I've got a problem getting... okay, let me just accept that. Clicking accept, but I think I've got a problem with the expert. We might just have to do a voice call, I'm afraid. I'm clicking the camera, but nothing's happening. No one at home.
Oh dear.
But that's okay, we can just talk. Right, look, I've just played that video that you ran on your Facebook page, which is quite extraordinary. But before we talk about that issue, what I'd like to talk to you about is your life growing up in South Africa. Tell me about your childhood, memories you have. Just tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, I would say I was quite fortunate in growing up. I grew up in Jeffreys Bay in the Eastern Cape, and I used to surf, and oh gosh, I was involved in a lot. And my little brother and I had really good lives. We had a great childhood, great parents, very supportive. And if it hadn't been for my parents, I wouldn't have achieved what I did in my sport and things like that. So it was a good childhood. I can't really complain too much about it. I think into my teenage years, things growing up, it was great. And I fell in love with horse riding when I was like 2. My mom put me on a horse and she couldn't get me off.
Tell us about that. When did you first start riding horses?
So I think I went to my first riding lesson when I was probably about 5 or 6, and
Wow.
Started with little ponies and lead rein, and I went to my first show when I was probably about 6 or 7 and won my first medal, and I was hooked. And from there, my mom just kept taking me to my lessons, and I got better, and I started doing well in all the shows and whenever I competed, and I started representing South Africa for one riding team, the SABO team, South African National Boerpaard Association, and they are, it's a different breed, so they are a little bit of a smaller community than the saddlebred community that I moved up to, but I started in their team with them when I was 12, and I rode with them for 6 years. We got 6 gold medals every year against Namibia and the States, and then I moved on to saddlebreds, and I got chosen for the South African team for the first time when I was 16, and went to the States to compete, and that was very exciting. We competed against the USA and Canada, and then I represented the junior team for another 2 or 3 years, and then went on to senior team, and I got my senior blazer and was quite fortunate enough to land in a World Cup year and ended up being chosen as captain. So,
Wow.
the dream was the senior blazer, but the captaincy in the World Cup year was just a huge plus, and that was sort of where my career sort of ended. After that, I had to look at my priorities and, university and all that, so I had to sort of leave it behind, but I've ended on a high note, and many years of blood, sweat and tears, but so worth it.
I've got a photo of you up on the screen. You're in the middle. There's a fellow on your left-hand side and a blonde-haired lady on your right-hand side. Is that correct? That must be you in the middle. Yeah.
Yes. The blonde-haired lady, she was my manager, and the gentleman next to me is Martin Pienaar. That was our coach for the team that year. That was in Paris in the Free State. And we got silver that year. We competed against 5 other countries, the discipline that I ride in is not as well known as, say, Sanif, more your show jumping and Gymkhana or anything like that. It's big in the States, but the South African community is quite small. But
Right.
it was great. It was an amazing experience, unforgettable memories and lifelong dream.
Yeah. Now, you feel so strongly about the situation in South Africa when it comes to sexual abuse and rape that you've basically said that you're embarrassed to have that blazon up. Tell us about why you feel so strongly. I mean, I know it's a terrible situation with the rapes and sexual abuse in South Africa, but feeling embarrassed to have your Springbok blazer is a huge issue, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, look, the one thing that blazer will always represent to me, and that I'll always be proud of, is my hard work and what I achieved, and the dream that I had and that I reached. As far as representing my country, once upon a time, I was very proud to do that. I was very proud to be an ambassador for my country. I think we've got a beautiful country. We really do, and we're spoiled. We have got such a gorgeous country, and it's unfortunate that it is just exactly that, being spoiled by our government and the corruption and all of the issues we currently have. And the reason I feel so strongly about these issues is because I myself have been subject to them, and I've lived through many years of just sort of turning a blind eye to it because we're told, don't give them attention, don't react, because when you react, you give them what they want, or they want to get a rise out of you, or whatever the case is. And I just feel like it's such an issue in this country, and it's not even seen on the right scale. We only really look at it as the major cases where women are straight up raped, but we don't look at where it starts and like the behavior that encourages that, where
Right.
it's as simple as a woman being groped or catcalled or touched or spoken to in a way that is degrading, and it's seen as acceptable. And it starts there, where suddenly it's a small behavior. It's like it's like a slippery slope. You get a little toe in the door, and the next thing, it's out of control, and no one said anything. No one stands up. No one, everyone just turns a blind eye because they don't want to get involved. They don't want to cause a scene, but it's still wrong.
Yeah. Now, there were, according to the figures I've got on the screen right now, there were 41,583 rape cases recorded in South Africa between 2018 and 2019. Now, apparently only 1 in 9 people who are raped in South Africa actually report it. So if you take that into account, you're looking at about 400,000 rapes a year in South Africa. That's quite
Absolutely,
that's
and
quite an extraordinary.
it's not a normal number. Absolutely, it's a ridiculous number. It's there's no words for it. In fact, it's a ridiculous number. It's not normal. That's the scary part, is that people look at this country and they go, oh well, another day in South Africa. It shouldn't be that way. We're allowing it to be that way. We're allowing it to just be the norm, because we're not standing up and doing something about it. And the reason that people are not reporting it is because they're petrified to, because nothing is going to get done. It doesn't get taken seriously. They're going to be shamed. They're going to feel guilt. They're scared that this person does something to them once they open their mouths. Whatever the case is, it's just that there's no trust in our system. There's not enough trust in our system for people to come forward and put their trust in them that something's going to be done. Nothing gets done. So they don't trust the system, so they just let it go because it's not seen as anything dire.
Right. Now, we'll talk about Cyril Ramaphosa a bit later, because I have to tell you, I have complete contempt for the man. I think he is a liar. I think he's corrupt. I don't think he has the general people of South Africa's interests in mind. I think he has his own agenda.
No, I think you're right in that with certain issues. Yeah, I must say, in this last while, especially handling this COVID pandemic, his addresses to the nation have been, I felt, a little more sincere lately, where I think because he's suddenly got a lot of pressure on him now, he has to act. And that's the sad thing, is it's taken a national disaster for him to pull his socks up. And that's exactly why I put that video out, because it's a point of no one saying anything, nothing's getting done, and it's a huge issue. And that's why I said, what is it going to take? Is it going to take 100 more children to be slaughtered and killed, and another 1,000 women to be raped? Is that how much more is going to happen before he wakes up? And I feel like it's been an ongoing thing with the ANC for many years now, and it's not just him, it's our previous leaders as well. It's been ignored. And like I said as well, I feel like they might also just be, sort of puppets in a much grander scheme, where there's someone else sort of telling them to pull the strings. I mean, we've had all the Guptas and all the nonsense there,
okay,
where, there's always behind the scenes.
We'll get onto that a bit later. Now, one of the interesting statistics in this source from the South African Police Service is that, according to them, this is what I can't understand, it makes no sense, is that lower forms of sexual abuse, and I'm talking about rape, you had 41,583 in 2018 and 2019, but contact sexual offences, they only have 1,254, attempted sexual offences 2,146, and sexual assault 7,437. You would think that those figures would be inversely much bigger than the
absolutely,
the
but that again goes back to people not reporting it, because if it's not direct sexual contact, say they don't have evidence like a sperm sample or something from the actual rape, or it's something that is considered smaller. It's not proper rape, so it usually goes where they'll go in and they'll get tested and their clothes tested, and then it eventually turns around to, if they find no evidence, it's your word against theirs.
Right. Now, what I've just put up on the screen is a comparison of rapes per 100,000, showing the top 10 countries in the world. And what is really disturbing is that South Africa is number 1 with 132.4 per 100,000. Botswana is second, Lesotho is third, and Swaziland is fourth. They're all in Southern Africa.
Absolutely.
Isn't that incredible?
It is absolutely incredible, and I think it's something that needs to be. I'm glad you bring that up, because it should be seen on a wider scale. Yes, South Africa is known now as the rape capital of the world, but the neighboring areas and countries they're also experiencing it. I mean, our provinces. I mean, I mentioned in my video there were, I said it was 4,300 or something rapes in one province in a month, and it's just it's unfathomable that this is happening. Because you look at that in a month and you take that down to, you divide it by the days, you see how many rapes are going on daily. It's crazy that this is our country. This is the state of our country.
Well, in 2017, 2018, it was 110 rapes recorded by the police every day in South Africa.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the scale of people we're not seeing. We're given a little bit of information here and there, like a big headline in the paper, when something has happened and suddenly it's caught media attention. But the information is not readily available enough for people to actually see the big picture, the whole scale of what is going on. It's all sort of swept under the rug, or it's kept quiet, or it's just that was what my video was about, encouraging people to actually speak out when something is done to them. That the whole inspiration for it came because a person that I grew up with was shamed because he had groped a waitress in her place of work. And I can't tell you how many times, I was a waitress for 10 years, I can't tell you how many times I had to bite my lip and just carry on because I've been degraded or just absolutely disrespected by a patron. And I was inspired by her for standing up, because that is exactly it. It starts there. You take those small little actions. We've got to show no tolerance for it.
Yeah.
Tell
the men who watch this video how it emotionally impacts you if something like that happens. What how do you feel? What does it actually make you feel like?
Well, I'll do one better. I'll take you through probably the most disgusting patron I can remember having. I was working as a waitress in Stellenbosch, and a gentleman had come in sort of fairly later than you would for dinner. He was on his own. It was around 9 o'clock, and he came in, and I figured, okay, cool, well, another tip, great, take a table. And so I offered him certain things, and the next thing I noticed after I'd seated him, he was slightly tipsy, and I thought, okay, well, this is all right, I'll just deal with it. And he was sort of fine in the beginning until he got to a point where he started saying to me, like, he was saying in Afrikaans, but saying, I love the way your hips move when you walk, or just things that just were, you don't say.
Yeah.
And I felt uncomfortable at first, and I thought, okay, well, I've dealt with this sort of thing before. It's okay. I'll deal with it, and I'll just sort of let it slide. And as a girl as well, you just sort of you're told to almost entertain it, just so that you can get through it. So you sort of laugh it off and you giggle. But I mean, I went to the head waiter, Rian, who's a guy friend of mine who was working with me, and I said, look, just please keep an eye on this guy, because I'm not feeling great. He's freaking me out a bit. And so I eventually went to get him a dessert, and it was not 10 minutes later, and he went into an absolute rage, because I'd gone back to him to say, look, your dessert's going to be ready in a second. And he suddenly looked up at me, and he's like, he's angry about something, and he says, oh yeah, well, yeah, you just want to flirt with me to get my money and to do this and to do that. And he's already just degraded me. And then just by the by, the things that he said went further than what I've sort of described,
right.
A little more vulgar, a little more detailed and grotesque. And I literally stood there while he was screaming at me, like shouting at me off, just degrading me, and basically accusing me of trying to seduce money out of him, sort of thing.
Right.
And the whole restaurant's watching. I was so embarrassed. And my manager grabbed me and he said, just run upstairs, just go sit upstairs. And he sort of like made a whole scene, paid, and walked out. But the whole time that I'd been serving him, anytime I walked to his table, like I'm watching, his eyes and where they're going and his motions. And you almost can see the wheels turning and what's going on in his head. And you feel like you want the earth to just swallow you up. You feel like you've been violated. You feel like you've been touched in a way that's just, or spoken to in a way that just, it makes you feel sick. There's a sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach. And, you go home at night and you feel like that is all you're seen as, or all you're worth, or like, the way men approach you or treat you is you're something to be used. You serve, you get them, and they can talk to you how they want, they can do whatever, and you're sort of almost, in a sense, prostituting yourself, because you're taking it, you are entertaining it just so that you can get the tip at the end of the day, because if you cause a scene, you're going to lose that money.
Right.
And when you're waitressing in university, and that's what you live for your tips, I mean, you do end up entertaining it, and you go home at night feeling just very empty. You feel empty, you feel violated, you feel grossed out, you feel low about yourself, you just feel less. It's a very horrible feeling, and it really takes a toll on your self-esteem and your self-worth and how you see yourself and how you feel about yourself and your values. It's not a good feeling at all. It's very sad.
Well, it does seem that in South Africa the whole issue with rape has been kind of marginalized and is not taken seriously, although it is an incredibly serious subject. Arno writes, the African woman will tell you it's normal for them. If a guy wants to sleep with you, even the police do it. It's a culture thing. Now, when we look at the high level of rapes in southern Africa, not just South Africa, do you think that it is perhaps a breakdown within the Bantu culture that's actually resulting in this huge rape level in South Africa?
I mean, look, I feel like there's a lot of women in that culture that, because they're taught, it's like any religion, you know, you're taught this is how things are, this is normal, this is, you let these things happen, sort of thing. And I think in that culture, you know, if that's bashed into them enough, they allow it to happen, and then it's not seen as a rape, and it's seen as a cultural thing. And that really blurs the line, and that's a very sort of scary thing to look at, because I think there's a lack of education in like our townships and things like that where this is most common. And, you know, women are then taught, or they're taught through their culture, you know, this is how it is, this is the way it is. They're not taught that there is another way, or that it's wrong, or that it's, I think it goes to, like, you know, what they consider is right or wrong, or what they've been taught. And I think that definitely plays a role. I think that definitely adds to it. But there's a fault there. How do you fix that if it's a cultural belief that's been drilled into them, and then it suddenly in other cultures or other beliefs or value systems, suddenly it's rape. And there's a blurred line there, but I do think it definitely contributes.
Now, Fiona says, I put my own experience in my autobiography, but the perp, now a respected lawyer, threatened to sue me and my publishers, so I had to write a public legal letter saying that I had lied. This is the really awful thing about, I guess, reporting something like a rape is, you know, once you do that, you have to go through the whole court process. It must be incredibly emotionally draining.
Absolutely. And I mean, you're made to, these women go through these court processes where they then have to be in the same room as, you know, their attacker, and you have to sit and look at this person, and you have to hold your composure. And I mean, I myself, look, I said in my teenage years, I had a bit of a rockier road. Things sort of fell apart for me. I had a hard time throughout my childhood, and going into teenagehood, and I had my own experiences of abuse. And I can tell you that when you're in the presence of someone that has abused you, the one thing that is going through your mind is just basically the abuse itself. The whole event is just, it replays in your head. It's like flashbacks, and they throw you. It's scary. It's like something you can't get away from. It's like a reel playing over and over in your head, and there's no way of escaping your own mind. It's like an internal prison, and when you're recovering, even that happens for years to come. You know, before you're able to you know, get through, say, a memory of it turning up without wincing or recoiling or feeling petrified. You know,
it's like PTSD, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Now, you raise a very good point in your video that we played at the start. And that is that it's absolutely ludicrous that rapists are given bail and then they go and re-offend.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a problem. I mean, the child that was murdered, I'm in Hart Bay, and the child that was murdered at the school here, Sabu, his murderer had a criminal record and was still allowed to teach small children.
What?
I mean, it's absurd. Absolutely. He had a criminal record, and they looked him up, and he had a criminal record. He was let out, and he was allowed to teach small children at a school as a soccer coach.
Yeah.
And that is just, it's beyond crazy to allow that and then expect there to be no risk. I mean, and it's very unfortunate that a child had to die, but that is exactly you know, what you're going to expect if you're going to allow that.
Right. Now, you touched on the subject of education, and I think this is probably the most important area to educate people when they're young. And what I find deeply concerning is that South Africa, in the education system, has embraced this crazy new sexual freedom area where kids as young as 7 and 8 are being told it's okay to be promiscuous. It's okay to for two guys to be together, for two girls to be together. It's before they've even grown emotionally or mature enough to actually understand what sex is all about. They're being actually hammered with ideas, and I think it's crazy that they start this at that age. Surely it would be much better if they had a course where they taught respect for women as opposed to that. What do you think?
I agree with that. I used to au pair as well, and some kids, they come up with questions, and you have to sort of sit there and you go, okay, do you tell the truth, or is the truth a little too harsh for them to know? And I mean, I used to always look at it as what I'd like to call age appropriate problems. So with children of age 7, should they be learning about sex and about promiscuity and about that? No, they should not. They should be learning values and morals and how to treat each other as human beings and how to be fair and how to be just, and the difference between right and wrong, your basic core values. When they get to an age where, sure, puberty is suddenly coming around and they're now that they kind of need to learn about what's going on about their body because it will help them understand and get through it. Absolutely. But I mean, as an au pair as well, I mean, I had kids who were teenagers that I couldn't believe half the things they would talk about and say and do, and it really just shocked me, and it was something that really made me sort of look at society as it is now and go like, wow, okay, things are very different from when I was growing up and the things that were appropriate to talk about or that were discussed at those ages. I just feel like there's far too many gates have been opened. It's like the internet. There's access to everything now, and it's very hard to now control what is being put into minds or what is being put out or what is being seen or read, and it's scary, and it's almost like a bit of a panic thinking, gosh, how do you control that? How do you keep your child safe? How do you know that they're not accessing things that they shouldn't be accessing? It's a definite problem, and I think at that age they definitely shouldn't be learning about things like that.
Right. Now
it only encourages. I feel like children have a curious mind. When they learn about something like that, I feel like it encourages curiosity, but that curiosity is not yet mature enough to be
understand the
logical
implications.
Yeah, to understand what the risk of that curiosity entails.
Yeah. Now, just for the record, we've got about 150 people watching at the moment. Now, I'm going to address people who are watching. If you'd like to ask questions of Sadie, please just put them into the side chat, and if I could ask Jarko and other moderators just to copy them, and later on we'll actually take those questions and I'll pass them on to Sadie in this live stream. Okay, now moving on a bit. Moving on a bit. You raise a point that sexual abuse is becoming acceptable in South African society because it's so prevalent, and I totally agree with you. I think that that's happening more and more around the world too, but in South Africa in particular. I've heard of women who've been raped who've gone into police stations and they've basically been fobbed off by the police.
Absolutely. No, that's, again, that all goes back to why they're afraid to go and speak up, because they don't trust the police system, to do something about it. There's no trust in our justice system that they will do anything that will, make any kind of change. It's not going to matter in the end. So they don't report it. They don't feel that they are that it's going to make any difference,
Right.
or that it's going to. They only feel like it's probably going to escalate the problem. It's almost easier to pretend it didn't happen and sweep it under the rug, sort of thing.
Yeah. Now, where is it? Gordon has said, "I wish we could see Sadie-Lee." So do I, Gordon. Unfortunately,
Sorry, everybody.
unfortunately, for some reason, the camera's not working. But at least we can hear her. It would be much worse if we could see her but not hear what she's saying.
Yeah.
Now, you've mentioned about Cyril Ramaphosa. Now, last year he made a speech about respect for women, and he went on about it. And since then he's been very quiet, and nothing has really happened with regard to following up what he said. What are your comments about how you think this ANC government is treating this problem?
No, but that's exactly what I said in my video. I said, he comes up and he says a few fancy words, and then and everyone cheers and everyone's happy, and then the next day it's been said now they're going to be happy for a little while longer. I mentioned it, and now we don't have to deal with it for another month, and it's ridiculous, because he goes and speaks at Tasne's funeral or her memorial, and he says, this child's death will not be in vain, and this won't happen, and we won't allow this. He's been saying the same thing for months and months now, and we've had how many children die in broad daylight, and I'm going to say this again, by a coach in a school. It's not even a child that walked to the shop like Tasne did, in a bad area. This was a child in a school, and he says a lot of fancy words. There's no follow up. Their whole attitude towards this, I feel like they're more concerned about maintaining power of the country and about the racial issues going on in terms of the economy and things like that. When it comes to the people and their suffering in terms of like their mental states and their health and their quality of life, there's no concern.
Yeah. Don't you think that that's fairly typical of the president, though, because he makes these fancy speeches, which obviously he doesn't write, someone writes for him, and he doesn't follow through at all. It's just it's like giving an oratory, about something, but not actually doing anything about it.
No, absolutely. It's just paying lip service, really. It's just he's chewing on a subject for a while because it's something that he has to talk about and mention, because if he doesn't, people will be upset. So it feels like it's just done for summer. It's not done with a purpose or an end goal in mind. It's just done to pacify people, really.
Right. Now, Donna says Sadie is a great name. Sadie has a great, nice, and lovely voice. Very passionate, very bright. There you go. That's the general consensus.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's lovely. Thank you so much.
Now, okay, so you've basically spoken out about the rape issue in South Africa. Do you have any plans going forward as to setting up an organization or getting involved in something more actively to try and help combat the situation in South Africa?
Well, before the lockdown happened, I was working with another group that got hold of me and asked if I would basically be a female speaker for their group. And I was fully on board, and I was really, really, I was excited to do it. But the lockdown then suddenly started to happen, and things started going a bit pear-shaped, and I felt that, although this is still a very prevalent issue in our country, the COVID virus took center stage, sort of thing, so to speak, and it took priority. So the priority now became keeping people safe, sanitization, and all the rest that's gone on. I do think that when the lockdown lifts, I do want to get back on board with this group, and I do want to see where I can take it. I've got so many ideas bouncing around in my head on things to do, and when you do something like this, like I said, it was a spur of the moment inspiration that I was upset, and I was like, okay, no one else is saying anything, and I may as well say it. And I put the video out, and I kind of didn't really think beyond that when it happened. But the responses were so incredible, and it was very inspirational. I do want to try and do something once this lockdown's, eased up a bit, that I can get in touch with certain people, and I do want to try and do something to make a difference. I do feel like it's something that is very dear to my heart. And I mean, when I was young, growing up, I started studying psychology when I first went to university, and that was my dream from 12 years old. I thought I was going to be a psychologist, but my main goal was actually to open an equine therapy center where I could get horses and rehabilitate them, and do join-ups and do equine therapy with kids that have been through abuse, domestic violence, anything like that, where they feel vulnerable and there's no place to go. I healed a lot through my horses with the traumas I face, and I found that if it hadn't been for my horses, I don't think I would have been here today, honestly. And I want to do something where children can feel that, and they have a safe space. So it's definitely something that is a long-term dream, long-term goal, but it's something that I've always wanted to do.
Yeah, well, it's always great to give to society, because you always get a huge amount back.
Absolutely.
Now, you mentioned the horses. Do you still have horses now?
I don't anymore, sadly. They cost a lot of money to keep. But my parents, I mean, they supported me through my riding career, and sort of once I retired, I had to afford university and things like that. So I had to give it up. It broke my heart. I can't tell you how it broke my heart. I don't think I've cried for a boyfriend or a man more than I've cried for my horses. But I still miss them. I still ride when I can. The people that the owners that bought them over from me, they still send updates every now and again. And I mean, you put me in a yard with a horse now, and you're going to drag me out kicking and screaming, because it's something I crave every day, just being in a stable. Right.
Well, I have to tell you that one of our subscribers to the channel, who's been a subscriber for a long time now, is Talita. And Talita is disabled now. She actually had a horse accident when she was in her early 20s. But she was the first female jockey in South Africa. And she won hundreds of races all over the world, and an amazing young lady. There's a wonderful connection between people and horses, isn't there?
Absolutely. I've always said, unless you've owned one, you'll never truly understand it. So many people come to me and they go, "Oh no, I don't like horses, they're scary." And I can't stand it when people say that, because I'm just going, you don't know. You haven't felt it. You don't understand. And
yeah.
I mean, my one horse, Esty, I had for like 20 years, and she was abused when we bought her, and she was amazing. I mean, I used to ride her with no bridle, no saddle. I'd let her go. I'd close my eyes. I didn't care. I felt safe on her back. I'd slide down her bum. I'd sit underneath her. She wouldn't do anything. We just had this incredible bond where there was this trust, and there was this unspoken language, this wordless language that only her and I seemed to be able to understand. And it was just, it's something very surreal. It's incredible. It's indescribable.
Wow. Now, getting back to our subject here, and we're talking about the rape issue in South Africa.
Sorry, Scott, just say that again. You broke away for a sec.
Sure. Getting back to the sexual abuse and rape issues in South Africa,
yes.
Is there something you would like to say to people watching this video now or watching this video later, as far as just like a message, sending a message to people?
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, I think, look, I know like a lot of people think that I'm speaking a bit like a feminist. I want people to understand that as a woman, I can only speak my truth from my experiences. I know there are countless other people. There are men, women, and children that are suffering every single day, and we all face issues. I can only show passion and, genuine feeling for something that I myself understand and have experienced. And I speak with passion, and I speak with a bit of pain in my heart, but I speak genuinely. And what I can say is that I want people to be stronger. I want people to just, those moments where you feel like you're scared to speak up. Just break the mold, break the norm. Don't sit by and be silent, and stand up for, the person next to you. With women, we say, we should be fixing each other's tiaras and not tearing each other down. I feel like that needs to extend to people. I think we need to all, be a little kinder and have a little more humanity in our hearts. And we need to sort of put ourselves in the shoes of others and think, if you witness something being done to someone that you wouldn't accept being done to yourself, don't stand by and watch it. I feel people need to get back to their humanity. They need to reconnect with, what we are. We are not enemies. We're not put on this earth to fight each other and to judge each other and tear each other down. There's a journey in finding that peace with yourself and others and with humanity. And I feel like it starts when you start to, instead of thinking of yourself or how it's going to affect you, go beyond that. How's it going to affect someone else? Or, if it were you, how would it affect you? And just take that time to just gain a bit of perspective, look into other people's issues, what they're going through, what they've been through, and, be kinder, be more sensitive to it. But at the same time, there's a sense that people need to gain a little more softness, but at the same time, a little more strength. And I want to urge people to just be that change you want to see in the world. Be that, the thing that you would, if you see someone in a situation that you have been in the past, what would you have wanted done? It's one thing that drives me when I treat people in certain ways, is if I see someone who's going through a hard time and they're acting out, or they're aggressive or something, I don't look at them and I go, this person's just a horrible person. I always think to myself, why are they acting that way? And it's, when we look at, helping people out, it's like I said with the waitress, out of that table of guys that was sitting there, although one guy was groping and grabbing her, the one friend had enough truth to grab his arm and say, stop, right, don't touch her like that.
Yeah.
And it's something that needs to be adopted. And I hope I'm making sense. I'm speaking from the heart here, but I just feel like people need to have that sense of empathy and sympathy and just general regard for each other. And I really want women to feel like they're not alone. I want them to understand that standing up is the right thing, that speaking out it's more than just the right thing. It's about respecting yourself. It's about having the love for yourself enough to say, this was wrong and I won't accept this.
Right. Now, you mentioned an organization that had approached you to come and speak on their behalf. Do they have a website page or a Facebook page or something like that?
They're called Shut SA Down. The movement essentially was that we are tired of the the issues just being sideswiped,
mm-hmm.
and we were going to basically enforce a silent protest. And because there's been many protests in the past where there's been burning things, doing this, doing that. Nothing helps, but we wanted to enforce a silent protest where essentially we shut the entire economy down and everyone stayed home and didn't go to work, and we made the government listen. But the lockdown has kind of done this for us.
Right.
So, but we still are firm in our movement. Mornay Swart he started the page, and he's wonderful. I've had a good couple of chats with him, and basically, the whole movement is just for a better, safer, happier, healthier South Africa, one that we are proud of. I mean, I know you get so many people with this, they're leaving, and there's the hashtag I'm staying movement and all that, and it's just, the people who want to leave, go ahead, but there are a lot of people in this country that are still, they still love their country, they're proud of their country, and they don't want to stand by and watch it, go to the dogs, whatever the case is.
Right.
And I'm one of those people, and everyone on that group they're all those kind of people where we love our country and we respect it enough to stand up for it, sort of thing.
So if you go to Facebook and search on shut space SA down.
Yeah, shut SA down, one word.
Yeah, okay, shut SA down, one word. They'll come up with your website, or Facebook page.
Well, yeah, they put my video on, and
right.
Yeah, wow, it got so many views. I got so many comments. I got so many friend requests and messages, and it was very overwhelming.
I can believe it, because it's an inspirational video, I have to tell you. And when I saw it, I thought, wow, I've got to have this lady on my live stream. Now, talking about the lockdown, how is that impacting you personally?
Well, I can say, in terms of work and income, I mean, there's a financial stress now, of course, but I mean, for everybody, to be honest with you, look, I've tried to sort of keep myself in the mindset of not letting it get to me. I sort of go, okay, well, there's not much else I can do about it right now. The entire world is going through this. It's not just me. And you just have to make do. You have to make the most of it. I mean, I've taken the time to just sort of get back to myself a bit, and to try and sort of put my attention into things that I've otherwise ignored for a while because I've been stressed about work or stressed about this. In a sense, I've almost looked at it as, okay, yes, I can't really stress about work, and there's nothing I can really do right now. Maybe a couple side projects to get a bit of extra cash in if possible, but it may not make sense to people. It's something that I was taught from young is, if you've done everything you can do about it, you can't really worry. You're causing yourself unnecessary stress, and if there's nothing else you can do, you can't worry about it. You just got to sort of play it out. So we're being, frugal where we have to, and we're being, mindful, and we're just sort of taking it in our stride right now. I mean, I'm sure the impacts are going to be a little harsher later on, but for now, I'm just trying to keep a positive mindset and just, use the time that I have now at home as wisely and as productively as possible.
Right. Okay. Now, again, I'm going to address the side chat. There are a lot of comments here saying how well you speak, and they're finding the subject to be really important. But are there any questions anyone would like to ask of Sadie? If the moderators can just cut and paste any that have been asked earlier, that'd be fantastic.
I'm not looking at the screen myself, Scott, because if I go onto there, I see my sounds conflict. So
right, of course, yeah. Now, yeah, we on the screen, all we have is your little icon, because we can't get the video up, but we can hear you perfectly, and obviously the voice is more important than the video, which would have been lovely, but it's the first time I've tried Facebook on a live stream, and I think there's something to do with Facebook and a conflict with the streaming software. I think that's what's actually happened.
Maybe, yeah. I used to have Skype, but for some reason it doesn't want to work. I've tried for years, so I gave up.
Right. Yeah, because Skype is normally the way we go, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so getting back to our subject of sexual abuse, I think the most important thing, when you think about it, is education at an early age.
Correct. No, it starts, the thing with sexual abuse, and that I think people need to start seeing differently, is that it starts, the whole notion of it begins much earlier than people think. It's, first of all, education. So kids are taught that, either they're taught something is not okay or it is okay. They're taught that it's not okay for someone to touch you here, and it's not okay for this. So they're taught, okay, those are no areas, or whatever the case is. And then the next phase, they're taught suddenly a friend is showing them a video of something sexually explicit or whatever the case is, and all of a sudden it's curiosity. Now that curiosity is not controlled. Now it becomes, little jabs where they'll go up to a girl and smack her on the bum because they think they can touch that part of her that is not meant to be touched. And she reacts. It's done. Now it's a big joke. So they continue doing this through life. Then it gets to a point where because it's never stopped at any point, and they're never told, this is not okay, or that this is
inappropriate.
This is disrespectful. It's disrespectful to that person.
Right.
That you're not actually. You've been told you're not allowed to be touched in a way you like, but you haven't been told that you're not supposed to touch that person in that way, or that's not okay. Because now it's been seen as a joke. Now it's seen as, it's just a little harmless, flirting or banter or whatever, a joke, whatever you want to call it. But that's exactly the problem, is it's not seen as you are disrespecting another person. You are getting into another person's space where you have not been granted permission. You have violated a person. It's not said in that way that makes them suddenly stop and go, oh, this is actually a serious thing. It's just, oh, don't touch me there, or don't do that. It's not explained in a way that makes it seem like a real issue.
Right. Now, I've got a few questions that are coming through for you. Jarko asks, Sadie, have you been ridiculed by the fake news media for speaking out?
I actually haven't. I was surprised to say. I honestly was expecting backlash. There's always going to be people who have something nasty to say, but I wasn't. I got amazing messages from people. There were like probably one or two bad comments that people put on that had nothing to do with the issue. It was just people being trolls, and the rest was all positive. I was really touched by a lot of the things that people had to say, and it was really important to me that people felt inspired, and that it had reached people in a way that they understood, and it seemed to have done that. So I was very happy about it.
Right. Now, Ron has asked, what school did Sadie go to? He's talking about the high school.
I went to Hoërskool Nikumelan in Humansdorp in the Eastern Cape.
Okay. Right. Now, is that near Grahamstown?
No, so it's between Jeffreys Bay and St. Francis.
Oh, of course, you grew up in Jeffreys Bay, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very Afrikaans school, but I loved it. All the horse shows I went to, my mom and I were pretty much the only English people there, so it was, learn or get left behind. So I really loved it. I had a very sort of wide variety of different kinds of friends and different backgrounds, and I loved Nikumelan. It was a great school.
Right. Okay, well, look, I just want to thank you, Sadie, for coming onto the live stream. Because it's really an issue that this channel hasn't addressed in the past in a meaningful way, and I think now we are. The rape and sexual abuse issue in South Africa is totally out of control. The ANC government are doing nothing about it, and the police are complicit in many cases, and the judicial system is really floundering when it comes to this issue, which really puts a huge amount of weight on the female population, because if something happens, they do feel like they've got no one to turn to.
Absolutely. No, that's the point I was sort of making. It's not that I'm pointing a finger at every single man in this country. There are tons of brilliant men that are respectful, but I'm saying, when I say men are getting away with too much, I'm specifically pointing out or pointing at those that are disrespectful. And I think that, as I said, we can't go anywhere without clutching our handbags. I don't walk anywhere without keeping a firm grasp on my handbag and making sure it's zipped and it's closed. And it's it's just that fear. As women, we're easier targets. We are weaker. We are easier and we carry a handbag with all our stuff in it, things like that. It's just we are easier targets. So we do feel more vulnerable. It's not that men don't experience issues. It's just that as women, we are more vulnerable. We are more at risk, and we do feel frightened. There's a very, very real fear that exists in every single woman in this country's heart daily, and it's not addressed, as you say.
Yeah. Well, like I think one of the great tragedies of what's happening in society, and it's not just in South Africa, is that with the internet, people have become so cut off from each other. I've seen so many examples of people sitting across the table from each other, drinking coffee, and they'll both be on their mobile phones texting someone. And here they are, sort of, you'd expect them to be sharing a conversation over the coffee, but they're too busy on their mobile phones. And I think this has become a huge issue as well, because it really has broken down the way that we used to communicate. And I think that's...
We've been desensitized, in a sense. We've been desensitized, where it's people are very easily... they're very easy to speak up and have an attitude or have an opinion on social media, because it's much easier to hide behind a screen. So people are now losing that real side to themselves when they have face-to-face interactions.
Right. No, I totally agree. I totally agree. All right. Look, I just want to turn my attention to the side chat for a second here. To the moderators, thanks, guys. As always, you've done a fantastic job this evening. To those who've participated in the side chat, thank you so much for being part of tonight's live stream. I, for one, have found it absolutely fascinating, because, this is a serious subject which is not talked about enough. And it's fantastic to have Sadie on, who's obviously got a passion about fixing the problem, where the ANC government obviously are clueless when it comes to fixing the problem. And we need more people like Sadie doing the sort of work that she is doing. And I just want to compliment you, Sadie. I think you're doing a fantastic job. And keep up the great work, and let's keep in contact in the future.
Absolutely, Scott, and thank you so much for having me. Thanks to everyone that's been listening. I've been very, very taken aback. I mean, I don't feel like I'm anyone special, and I wouldn't think too many people would care for my opinions, but it's amazing to have so many people listening in and to have the opportunity to speak. And yeah, thank you so much for the invite, and thank you for this. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Great. All right, guys, I'm going to shut down the live stream in a minute. Thank you so much for joining us. And don't forget, tomorrow night at 8 p.m, I've got Chris van Wyk from TLUSA. He's the Assistant General Manager of TLUSA. We're going to be talking about a wide range of subjects, including how the lockdown has affected the farming industry, talking about expropriation without compensation, and a number of other very, very important issues. So it's going to be a cracker of a live stream. Please stay safe, and thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks. I'll definitely have a look at it tomorrow night. That sounds very interesting. Thank you so much, Scott, and have a lovely evening, and same to you. Stay safe, and same to everyone as well. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Okay. Take care, Sadie. Bye for now.
Cheers. Thanks. Bye.